Hey there, folks. Dakotah Jackson here, a developer with the group, and I'm just going to cover using SharePoint Framework on a Mac, as well as deploying it on a test site and looking at it. So I've got a folder here. It's empty. So I've previously installed npm, yeoman, and gulp, which are requirements for using this. So I'm going to do yo, which is the yeoman call at Microsoft for SharePoint. And I also did install the node package for Microsoft SharePoint, which is the tool that builds the framework web parts. And so we'll see it prompts us here in a second. What would I like to name it? FMF SPFX is just fine for 5-Minute Fridays. I'm going to choose SharePoint Online only. With 2016, there are some CDN package hosting options that you might want to be aware of if you're going to go that route. I'm going to use the current folder, and I do want it to deploy to all sites immediately. I'm going to build a web part that is named 5-Minute Friday. And the description is description. It's very important to have a good description. Now, with Microsoft's generator, they've got 3 options here for frameworks. You could choose no JavaScript framework, you could choose React framework, or you could choose Knockout. I personally like to use Angular, and sadly they don't have a framework, but it's not too hard to set up once you get used to it. I'm going to go ahead and choose no framework just because this is a basic, simple demonstration tool. And while this is running, I'll talk about developing on a Mac with this. So Microsoft recommends, and I decide to use Visual Studio Code, which runs on Mac, Windows, and Linux. And this is just a nice interface for the development environment. You can use other tools if you prefer. So now the web part installation is finalized, the setup is done, and it says congratulations, your solution is ready, run gulp serve to play with it. So I'm going to run gulp serve. And this starts the locally hosted workbench, which is nice for doing layout and development in things that don't connect with SharePoint. But the weakness here is that if you want to connect to user data or lists, you're going to need to deploy a base empty web part, and deploy it to your site, set it up on a page, and then use some flags on the URL of that page to actually set it to load debug information from your local instance. And the reason this is because this workbench does not connect at all to your SharePoint accounts or anything like that. So it doesn't see any list data, and it doesn't see anything. As we see, we've got our SharePoint Framework web part set up. Now I'm just going to go open it in Visual Studio Code, make a small change so you can see how pretty it looks, and then talk about the deployment process. So Visual Studio Code, I go and open the folder. So open the folder. On the left, you'll see it populate the generated code and folders. We're going to go to Source, Web Parts, and open the TypeScript file for the web part. Now, I know this is the main TypeScript file, and you can see it's got our code, or our HTML, and our welcome messages here. So I'm just going to update this to 5-Minute Fridays. Rock. And I'm going to save it. Now, you'll see that once I save it, the workbench reloads. And that is because this tool here, when you run gulp serve, it actually watches the file for changes. And so once the file has a change, it redigests and reloads to say 5-Minute Fridays rock. That's pretty cool. It doesn't quite work the same when you're running against a deployed web part though, which is kind of a bummer. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel this, clear it. I'm going to do gulp bundle ship, and this bundles the NPM packages to prepare it for shipment. And with these bundled and shipped, I'm going to do gulp package solution ship. And I can go into the Finder now and go into the SharePoint folder, which is created by the process of bundling and shipping. Go into the solution, and now I have my SharePoint package. So I'm going to open the apps page on a test site, and as you'll see, I already tried with one 5-Minute Friday package, but I'm going to upload this one and show you how it works. So I can just go ahead and drag this. It'll upload and it'll ask me, do I want to deploy it? I'm going to make it available on all sites in the organization. Make it simpler that way. And so now it's deployed. I'm going to double check here to make sure there are no errors and it's fully deployed. Everything's good. Insert the new one here. Now, one thing you'll want to note is by default, the category of this is under Other. And you'll see that I made a spelling mistake, so I don't know which one is which. I made a new web part called 5-Menu Fridays, so maybe we'll have to rename 5-Minute Fridays. Anyway, I'm going to add this one to the page just to show you that it works, that it rocks, and here it is. So that's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Another thing I can mention is Microsoft offers a lot of templates already in their GitHub, and so those might be nice if you want to take something that you see from them and build upon it, or if you want to use those as references for how the Fabric UI is integrated with SharePoint Framework and Node and React. So I'd suggest you look at their GitHub and just know that SharePoint Framework is the way to go.